remember the original idea for, I forget what it was called now. What was the original idea for the business where you were going to work with small corporates?
Oh, I can't remember that one.
Yeah, you before Clicks and Leads.
Oh.
Your mentor.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah.
Wanted you to, and then we had a good name for it as well. I can't remember what it was.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. I'm gonna take my time.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Well, you just did a clever thing. You know, I've been moaning for several weeks about I get these funny boxes up the left-hand side. Well, you just, at the sound of your last click, they disappeared and your screen went as it always used to be for me.
Oh, how strange.
Isn't that strange?
Yes, well, software is sent to try us. I've got a little rant about that in my week.
Why don't you start by telling us about your week?
I will, okay. It's been very quiet. It's been lots of storms, lots of power cuts. I woke up in the middle of the night and everything was very dark, so my night light had gone out. So I thought, there must be a power cut. But luckily I have my gold emergency lantern with disco ball. And so I turned that on and managed to find my way to the bathroom by the light of a disco. I felt like I needed a bit of Earth, Wind and Fire September to go to the loo with. And but very quiet and lots of rain. So there's been, not much happening really. Gmail, let me have a little rant about Gmail. You know how Gmail used to let you drag an email into the other tabs?
No, because Eric won't ever let me use Gmail, so I don't know anything about. That's why I don't use Drive or Docs or anything.
Right, well, we won't get into that conversation.
But let's talk to the listener who uses Gmail. Tell us.
Well, but you used to be able to drag, if an email came into your primary inbox, you used to be able to drag it to one of the tabs at the top, whether it was social or updates or promotions. And Gmail would ask you if you wanted to have all future emails from those people go into those tabs. But now you can drag till you're blue in the face, Judith, and you don't get that question asked. And annoyingly, people just keep coming into your primary inbox. So you then have to unsubscribe. Now, I don't want to unsubscribe necessarily. I just want to get them out of the way so I can skim them occasionally. So that's been a bit annoying, and that's been about 3 or 4 weeks that's been doing that now.
Can I ask, can you create a rule?
Oh, I can do, yes, but I don't want a special folder for these people. They're not that important. I just want to be able to drag them into the updates tab and have them sit in the updates tab until I'm ready to look at them. Yeah,
you know what you're reminding me is that we don't like it when systems that worked perfectly well change.
Yeah, I know. So here's an interesting one. I don't know why. You know how this whole thing about trusting your intuition and everything? I saw an advert for the Grand. They're looking for a marketing director. And
sorry, I need to ask a clarifying question. The Grand music venue in Clapham Junction?
No, the Grand Hotel in Brighton.
Ah, okay.
And, I've always had an affinity for hotels. I like staying in them. I owned one. I'm quite interested in hospitality generally. But I don't want a job. I've never wanted a job for the last 22 years. But I found myself thinking about this job quite a lot. And then I thought, I wonder if I could ever fit into corporate life, even having read Traction. So I know what you're supposed to do. But then I thought, it might be fun to freelance at it for a few months. So I found myself contacting the general manager on LinkedIn. I blame LinkedIn for this whole thing, actually, because I'd never have seen a job advertised in the first place if I'd been on LinkedIn. I'm trying to get rid of my 5,500 people who I don't know and bring it down to just people who I do know or who are connected to people I know, so that I've got some sort of meaningful feed on LinkedIn when I go over there, because that's the problem I've decided. Anyway, I found myself thinking about this job quite a lot. And then I found myself looking at Dalton's Weekly. You know how you can buy businesses on Dalton's Weekly?
Yes.
I've always liked the idea of being able to buy a business out of its own proceeds and improve its turnover by marketing and then sell it on. I know I've got quite a few mates in America that do that.
And I teach all my clients to do that all the time. Why would you pay cash for a business? You
Exactly.
use the seller's cash for you to buy it. Absolutely.
Well, yes. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's not the seller's idea when they put it up for
nobody's got any money to buy a business with, so they have to go with that in the end. It's options. Do you remember when we learned lease options? That's how all commercial deals are done.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's quite a nice green removals business up for sale, and it's not very expensive. And I think the owners have probably just got tired of beating the green drum and have found that, but with our marketing skills, we could probably improve most businesses, I would think, and at least by 30 to 50%, and then sell it on, which sounds quite fun to me. So I thought I'll have a look at. I'll set up a little alert on Dalton's Weekly for businesses in West and East Sussex. I think I'm getting a little bit restless, Judith. I got
confused, Nicola. I got confused. The job at the hotel was marketing director. Did you say?
Yes, that's right.
And it segued very quickly from there into the Dalton's Weekly thing. I didn't really understand how those two connect.
Well, I was munching about in my updates tab, thinking, why can't I move things over there? And Dalton's Weekly popped in. I've got an alert set up for businesses for sale in Sussex. And I haven't paid any attention to it for the last 5 years. But suddenly I'm looking at this list of businesses for sale in Sussex and thinking, that might be quite fun.
So let me clarify. The Dalton's Weekly thing relates to the Gmail change thing, not the Grand at Brighton marketing director thing.
But it's all part of a bigger picture, which is
restlessness.
Since the weather's closed in, I think I'm getting a little bit restless. And I'm perhaps looking for something that I could travel backwards and forwards for more often. I think I'm feeling the pull of home a bit more. Not home as such, because I haven't got a home there, but the kids, seeing the kids more. I've had quite a few conversations with Phoebe this week, and I just I think I'm missing them more. I think I'm just generally feeling more alive, better, more bigger, ready for expansion.
Okay, I would like to make a suggestion, which is you're about to come home to England for 3 weeks. Why don't we compare notes after you've done that? I can remember how well that's gone on occasion in previous.
Yeah, well, I know, but then that was because I was miserable, wasn't I? So perhaps I'm not so miserable now. Anyway, I've offered the general manager of the Grand to have coffee with him if he fancies discussing it. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's interesting because you want to do the job remotely.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think.
You want to do the job there?
I think I want to travel more. I think that's what it is. I want to. That's what I want. Yeah, I think I'm not ready to retire yet. I thought I might have been, but I don't know if I am now.
And did it say what the salary was, or is it a full-time job, or what?
Yeah, I imagine it is. But I mean, you can, you could always talk people around, can't you, into trying you out on a consultancy basis initially.
You're thinking like when you worked with Benny?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm not thinking anything, to be honest. I'm just responding to my intuition, and that there's something about that job that just made me think, that might be quite fun. And I went and had a look at their website, and I can see a lot of ways to improve that. They're not doing any remarketing at all. Their pricing isn't transparent. You go on the website and they say they've got rooms for 85 quid, and then when you click on a room for 85 quid, it suddenly pops up it's 138 quid. So there's quite a lot that they're doing wrong. It's had a complete refurb. Now this was the attractive bit. It's owned by a private individual now. The De Vere Group sold it, and I thought I'd get on quite well with a private individual, I think, rather than a big corporate.
And it may be, classically, a marketing director wouldn't know anything about what you've just described. It maybe they'll take you on as a social. Remember the original idea for forget what it was called now. What was the original idea for the business where you were going to work with small corporates?
Oh, I can't remember that one.
you before Clicks and Leads.
Oh.
Your mentor.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah.
Wanted you to, and then we had a good name for it as well. I can't remember what it
was. We had several good names for it. But
yeah. Anyway, it's that idea slightly revisited.
Yes, it is. I think it's just a sign that either it's that I've been locked in the house for nearly a week with only the occasional excursion, or I don't know. Perhaps it's a sign of my general mental health improvement. I don't know.
I'm always quite impressed when I see not clients actually, more colleagues and people I know on Facebook quite well, or I think I know them quite well, even though I've never worked with them and I've never coached them or anything, but we built up a sort of relationship of knowing one another and stuff. When I see people, and I remember the very first person I saw do this, who go and get a job for a change, I sometimes feel a pang of envy, not because I want a job, but because a reliable income at the end of the month is quite appealing. And I think what happens is, if it were me, I know that's not a trade I'd be prepared to make for very long.
No, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I know all of this is a complete nonsense, but I'm just following my intuition.
I'm not thinking it is a complete nonsense, actually. I'm not thinking that. What you're reminding me of is there are pros and cons for both types of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Alice, in our I Love My Life group this morning, where we say 3 things we're grateful for every day, said she was grateful that she'd set up a life that she didn't have to commute on the tube for. And I replied saying, oh my God, we've been in this group together for years and I've never thought to remember to be thankful for the fact that I don't have to get on the tube every morning. But that is something I deliberately shaped my life around in, the mid-70s, and I've forgotten it now, but I see these people outside my window, walking up to the train station, and I'm grateful I don't have to do that. But I mean, it'll depend really on how well you get on with the man.
Well, I don't even know if he knows of my existence yet, but I've made 3 one-minute videos on hotel hospitality, and I'm going to advertise to people who work at the Grand Hotel and show them these videos. So,
okay.
So, I mean, it's a bit of fun, really. I just thought I'd pursue it a little bit because my intuition told me to. And the final bit of news is, you're going to like this one. I noticed this just before I came online, and I thought Judith will like this. There's a new Wi-Fi in town. So, when you go up to your list, because the power went off about 10:30, and I thought, blooming heck, that's going to screw things up. But anyway, it came back on again shortly afterwards. And when you go up to your list of Wi-Fi connections that are available to you?
Yes.
Well, a new Cosmote one has popped onto my list.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean somebody nearby has got high-speed broadband. That's all it means.
Oh, okay. Haven't you? So you could piggyback on those when yours is out, you mean?
No, you can't, because they're all password protected. But I just found it. I found myself wondering, is someone new in town? Because it's very deserted around here at the moment. Because there aren't any Greeks in the houses opposite, and there aren't any Brits. They've all gone home. So I'm interested that there's someone new nearby.
A new person. Yeah. Let me tell you what that reminds me of. When I'm living and working in other people's houses, I'm using their ISP. Is that what I mean?
Yes.
Is that what I mean? Yes. And what that means is, I think I might have mentioned it before, but it's very strange, is that when I search on things like Amazon, it shows me things that people with my ISP address have been searching on.
Oh, that's not right.
So it doesn't show me things. Well, it doesn't show me things when I leave here, it will show them what I've been looking at for the last 6 months. And at the moment, it's showing me things that they've been looking at, which are sort of gardening bits and bobs and travel bits and bobs. I mean, actually quite dull things I wouldn't consider buying ever. But it's an interesting thing to understand that the cookie is on your ISP, not on you.
I thought it was on your browser.
Well, whatever. The point is, it shows me what this house is interested in, not what I'm interested in. And then it's done it in every house I've lived in since August.
Well, that is interesting.
Because it gives me an eye into their world, which I'm not sure they would want me to have. And to be honest with you, I'm not really keen on having it because it feels like snooping. And it just reminds you how really very dull everybody is.
I think that needs a bit more investigation because I was convinced it was the browser that was cookied rather than the ISP. But
well, it can't be the browser, can it? Well, maybe it can. Because does it mean if I'm living in their house and they used Chrome and I used Chrome?
It might be.
Well, it is something to do with the geography because in every house I've lived in since August, I'm shown on Amazon the things they've looked at, the things that Amazon knows they're interested in, not what I'm interested in.
Yeah. How to find out? Anyway, I'll investigate and report back next week.
It's the same sort of spying thing about new Wi-Fi, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So what's your week been like then?
Well, I'm going to tell you one strange thing here, which is that on Sunday I had a surprising communication from CreateSpace, which is, the people that publish your book on Amazon.
Yes.
I'm going to read it to you because it's quite strange. Where was I? I was out and about when it came through. Oh, I know. I went to look at a house to buy. And I looked at my iPad and I got this email, and it said, during a review of your catalogue, we found your title contains content that is freely available on the web. We were unable to verify your publication rights over this material. Therefore, this material, i.e. my books, has been suppressed through your account and removed from all sales channels until you have provided the requested information. To reinstate your title's availability, please verify your publication rights by providing the information listed below. If your content is a collection of works, the same information is required for each individual work in the collection. And they asked me 3 questions. 1, the URLs for all websites where this content is published. 2, an explanation as to why this content is available online. 3, a contract or signed statement from the author verifying you have retained publishing rights. Please respond within 7 days with the requested URL so we can verify you have the exclusive publishing rights. Blah, 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 public domain. If you don't hold the rights, we ask you provide us with as a reminder, we may suspend or terminate accounts that try to publish other people's stuff. We appreciate your understanding. Well, I replied saying the URL for all websites where this content is published. This was let me just remind you first of all that this was in an email addressed to Judith Morgan.
Yeah.
So I replied saying the URL for all websites where this content is published is judithmorgan.com. Yeah. An explanation as to why this content is available online. Excerpts from my book are available online to sell more copies at Amazon, and all posts end with this is available from all the Amazons. Number 3, a contract signed statement from the author. I am the author, Judith Morgan. Why would Judith Morgan give Judith Morgan a contract with retained publishing rights? Anyway, they seem to have accepted that. It took them until about Wednesday to do that, but now they want me to proof my book again.
Proof it?
I can't see the point of that. If they took it offline, surely they can just reinstate it.
Yeah, and you can waive the proof anyway.
Well, I don't do that in case they've done some kind of tampering with it. So they've got to confirm to me that they haven't.
Online proof. You
don't I know that, but I don't want to proof 200 and something pages looking for
them to send you one and then you send it back saying it's fine.
No, darling, I've got it. But the point is I would have to proof it. Otherwise, how do I know it hasn't been interfered with?
Well, I think it's very unlikely it's been interfered.
Well, let's just get the point. They took my book offline for no good reason. Surely they can just reinstate it.
Well, they obviously just want to cover their backs, don't they?
Well, I'm going to stop them doing that. You know, they created the back that needed covering.
I know, but you can't fight. You're on one.
Well, I'm just going to have a go. That's all. I can't proof it again because it's too big a job. It would be like looking for what's different in this version to last version, if anything. I want them to confirm they haven't tampered with the original documents that were uploaded a year ago.
I think they won't have done, but I think they just, you could fight this, Judith, or you could just go along with what they want.
I know that, Nicola, but I'm sick of lying down in the road and letting great big machinery run over me.
Oh, okay.
Look what they've done. They've taken my books offline for no good reason at all.
Yeah. It is nonsense, especially
when it is.
The website is in your name.
Absolutely. Everything's in my name. They would just have to look, wouldn't they? Where is it published online? JudithMorgan.com. Who are we writing to? Judith Morgan. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, it is very strange, I must say.
But interestingly, our first section here is called Could Include Mini Rant of the Week. That's my mini rant. Now, moving swiftly along, tell me what's fueled your fire.
Well, the 1-minute videos are going extremely well. I've had interesting results. 210% rise in my LinkedIn profile views. It's 110% rise in my Twitter profile views, up from 54% increase last week. No more Facebook views on my page at all. So it's not having any impact on that at all. No more likes on my page at all, but a lot more engagement. So they're being clicked on, they're being shared, they're being liked, but it's not having an overall impact on my page at all.
Is that, could I ask, that they're required to leave your page to watch the video, i.e. it's hosted somewhere else?
No, it's being uploaded natively.
Okay, so they can watch it on Facebook?
Yes, but you'd think it would have led to, because I am promoting it to a lookalike audience who are cross-referenced with gurus. So you would, I mean, I'm taking the most popular one every week, the one that's getting the most engagement, and I'm promoting it for a week to a new audience. So you think it would be pulling in a few more page likes, wouldn't you? I'm stumped as to why that's not happening.
Well, I think it's quite important to find out, because we think of Facebook marketing as being very important to us.
Well, I mean, I'm getting lots of engagements and likes, and the ad, which I'm actually optimizing for views, so it gets viewed by the most number of people. I'm optimizing for 10-second views, so I'm actually optimizing for the people who click and watch at least 10 seconds of my 60-second video, and it's building an audience of people who watch it through to 25%, 50%, etc. But it's dirt cheap to advertise things for reach. It really is, and I'm getting really dirt cheap clicks through to my website from it as well, so that's really cool. It's having a massive impact in all the right places, but I'm just stumped as to why it's not getting any page likes or any more page views. If people are sharing it, you'd think more people would be coming to the page to look at it, wouldn't you? I suppose they're just watching it where it's been shared to. Yes, that's probably what's happening. Okay, that explains that then. But anyway, it's going great guns. I'm feeling it's very easy to do. I do it on about a couple of hours on a Monday morning. The only thing I can't decide now is whether to turn it into a square view, embed the captions in the bottom coloured bit and put my logo at the top, whether it's more attractive looking as is, or whether I should do it like James Schramko does his, where it's embedded within a square frame.
And when did you start doing these? When was the first one published?
We're on week 2, a full 2 weeks of them being released. I'm a week ahead, so I've done 3 weeks worth of recording.
Yeah, I wouldn't change until you've done a month, and then I would do a month the other way and then compare.
Yes. Well, it's more of an aesthetic question, really, because my colours are quite in your face. They're sort of dark grey, black and orange, and James is quite a pleasant blue.
But remember what you said earlier in the summer, if you change things too often or too many things at once, you can't tell whether it makes a difference.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And the aesthetics, the goal with the aesthetics is just that it works better, isn't it?
Yes, so you're right, I need a month's.
Yeah, I think so. I think you need 4 weeks and then do 4 weeks or whatever, actually, or 3 weeks and 3 weeks if you're going to stop doing them for Christmas or something. I don't know.
I'm only going to stop, not release any over the main holiday days.
Okay. So what I like about this, how long does it take you to make a 1-minute video?
Oh, it takes 1 minute to make it. Well, no, it doesn't. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to make it and about 5 minutes to edit it.
So this reminds me of the things, we've said before, which is as long as we send out the postcards, the business comes in the cleaning business. As long as we drink the green juice or eat the low carbs on Monday through Thursday, you notice the changes. When you only have one thing to do, which is every day without fail, I get out my 1-minute video and everything else flows from there, you've only really got one thing to do. It's very simple, and you're doing enough.
I do all 7 on a Monday morning, and then Sarah takes it from there.
Batching.
Yeah. Batching is brilliant. Batching's made such a difference to my life, Judith. I can't tell you.
Yeah.
What's fueled your fire then?
Let me see. Let me put my glasses on. Okay. I had a genius idea this week with my handwriting project.
Oh.
Where I'm on day 12, and I want to draw some conclusions about day 12 in a minute. It's supposed to be all about recovering manual dexterity, i.e. I couldn't read my own signature, and when it came to writing things down, I couldn't read it, and I was mourning that I'd lost my handwriting. It used to be beautiful. So I didn't want it to become just another journal. I didn't have anything I wanted to say in a handwritten journal, for starters. And a few days into it, let me get my book out and see when it was. So I started on Saturday the 17th of November, and today we're the 29th, so that's day 12. And I struggled on for a few days with this, writing down thoughts, mostly about funerals and the weather. And then on the 23rd, I think that's right, yes, on the 23rd, which is only 17, 18, 19, 20, 20, well, less than a week in, I hit upon this brilliant idea of copying out poetry. And I started with a Shakespeare sonnet, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day, thou art more lovely and more temperate." Then I remembered a few poems about death and funerals, the ones that people send you when people die. And I have a client who's a proper writer, and she not only writes fiction and prose, but she writes songs as well. And I find I'm very engaged when she's talking about the books and the songwriting. But when she talks about the poetry, I'm a bit ho-hum about it until I remembered how much I used to love poetry in my English literature classes at school. And what this has become is a double whammy, sort of perfect opportunity to become reacquainted with some of those. And I'm amazed about how many of them I can remember off by heart, Queen Kareem of Nineveh and things like that. Because we learnt poetry in my day by rote, by heart. It was, but you learnt it. And some of these poems are so good, I would actually love to learn them and stand up and recite them, actually, which is what my client does as well. Anyway, it's uplifting, it's inspirational, it's added the benefit of making the handwriting challenge much more interesting. So it's motivating rather than, oh God, I've got to practice my handwriting. I don't want to just write my own thoughts down. I can now Google a poem and go, oh, I love this one, and use that for the practice. Now, what's interesting about this, only 12 days in, and noticing, well, the handwriting improvements are amazing, but it's just reminded me that anything you do every day, or most days, even if I only do it for a very short poem, it makes improvements almost instantly. It's like what my clients do when they start doing yoga with Adrienne. It works for everything, this. If you can bring yourself to find a way to start something and keep going, change happens easily within 12 days. And like you said about following your intuitive nudge, it brought up a better idea just by doing it.
Yes.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, there is, I did that poetry course. It's Manchester University, and it's an open thing once a year, I think they do it, or twice a year perhaps. And there is websites that you can actually subscribe to, and they'll send you a new poem every day. And I found that really helpful for helping me find other poets that I wouldn't have found. I found a really fantastic poet, a Black American poet, who wrote in a really sparse, minimalist way, but covered really big topics and really heart-wrenching topics, but in a really...
Was it a woman?
Manner. Yes.
Was it Mary Oliver?
Can't remember her name off the top of my head.
Do you remember Wild Geese?
No, it was one about a lady who'd lost a baby, and she lived in Brooklyn. It was one of the Harlem School in the 30s or 40s.
I'm just going to read you the few lines of my favourite poem by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Oh, my word, I've got goosebumps. And I'm not going to run out of poems. I remember Walter de la Mare and Robert Frost. I'm not going to run out of them. In about a year's time, I'll take you up on that. But I've got... at least 365, proper poems in my psyche, 100 of which I probably know off by heart. I Googled, on the day I had the genius idea, I Googled, top 100 favourite poems. Oh my God, off you go. There they are, all the ones you learnt at school. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, love a new hobby, don't we?
Well, only one that improves. I mean, if I was still trying to write down my thoughts, I wouldn't be getting very far with this project.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you found a way to combine the two. That's brilliant.
Well, again, it was exactly what you said about an intuitive nudge. It wasn't I didn't feel like my idea. It's like, oh, I've had a genius thought.
It popped in.
Yes, it did.
In the universe.
Yeah.
It's Elizabeth Gilbert that says they're all floating around out in the universe. Oh, let me just tell you.
Yes.
Did I tell you that? I told you about that author I liked a lot last week. Anyway, did I tell you that she'd come up with an idea that I've come up with for my book?
No.
And I was just reminded of that thing that great ideas are just floating around out there, waiting for someone to pluck them down and use them.
It's interesting you should say that. That is the second thing you've mentioned today I've already written about in tomorrow's newsletter, and it involves Liz Gilbert, who called her book, a full 18 months after I called Small Business Big Magic, she called her book Big Magic.
Oh, that's right.
No, there's no new ideas under the sun, but the poets are reminding me there's an infinite number of ways of expressing it.
Yeah. Very nice. So talk about our focus of the week then.
You're so funny. Why are you funny? Well, because I'm supposed to be leading this one. You've gone straight into interviewer mode.
Get on with it then.
Yeah, okay. So, I wanted to move on when I was ready to move on, not when you were ready.
Okay, let's take a breath then and just admire the lovely scene.
All right, yes, okay.
Right, so Pacific Ocean, very nice.
We do have one of our guests this week, Rhys Morgan, no relation, who is talking about podcasting from scratch. And Rhys was once a vicar, and I said to him, are you still a vicar, Rhys? And he said, well, technically, once you're a vicar, you're always a vicar, but he's also a recovering alcoholic who's 5 years sober. And he talks about how he got going with podcasting, and he interviewed entrepreneurs involved in social good, and how his next venture will be about helping others to get and stay sober with a companion podcast with inspiration from others who've done that. He's funny, he's self-deprecating, he works in a treatment centre as a day job, and me and him all share our favourite quotes from recovering addicts. And he shares, and I loved this, his love of the romance of radio from being a very young boy, and to how his experience in this life have led him to become a force for good. Shall we have a listen to Rhys?
Yes, let's do that.
Morning.
Nicola here. Is Judith with us yet? Let's have a look.
No, I'm here. I'm here. Yeah.
All right.
When you say she'll be here in a minute, I'm always here before you, but we can't speak until you start it.
Well,
now, Rhys, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Hello. Morning.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. We've never spoken before. How are you?
Very well, thank you. And you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you. Now, I know almost nothing about you except that you're a very loyal listener. Rhys Morgan. We have a surname in common. Are you more Welsh than me?
I am, yes.
Yes. and also you're a podcaster, aren't you? And your podcast, remind me, is about social good.
Yes, it's called Social Good Podcast. I interview social entrepreneurs doing their own thing and
Good.
Anything that might help them grow their influence and stuff. So it's in the very early stages, so I'm making it up as I go along, but I'm learning to turn people down now. I go, no, you sound boring, but I don't do it like that.
Oh dear, Rhys! Now you've set a high standard for yourself, not to bore us.
God.
Not that you will, of course.
Paris, oh dear. No, Tom was really. I listened to the last one. Was it Tom last week?
Yes, he was brilliant, wasn't he?
God, that is a high bar.
Yes, it is.
Maybe I should reschedule. Oh no! I've done that already. Blah blah blah. Yeah. So, but the bar is high, and
so before you start telling us about your podcast. Yeah. Is that your main thing? What's your main thing? Tell us about you first of all, and then we'll move into your.
So I'm a bit Aspergery, but didn't realise it until after I got treatment for my alcohol addiction.
Okay.
So in between, I've never really fulfilled my potential. At school, I was a bit of a daydreamer. I worked at Harrods. I've done retail jobs. I've done call centre jobs. I was very good at call centre jobs. I had a very good trainer called Andy Harrington, who's gone on to bigger and better things.
Yeah, I know Andy.
Yeah.
And he's a good friend. I went to his stag night many, many moons ago. So then I became a vicar.
Oh.
Anglican priest, Church of England. Judith's thing in the book about disagreeing about being confirmed. I thought, oh my God, what if I'd have done that?
But the irony of ironies, Rhys, well, I don't know whether it is ironic, but actually, I'm totally cool with religion and God now. I think I say that in the book, don't I?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm not at 10. That was my religion.
Well, obviously, you were. I can remember when I was 10, girls of 10 were genuinely scary, so I steered well clear.
I don't think I was scary. When I was 10, it was 1965. I don't think girls were scary in 1965, but we'll see. Are you still a vicar?
Well, technically, you're not. You're always a priest unless you've done something really, really bad.
Right.
Now, what's happened since is I came to Birmingham at end of 2012, got treatment for it, got better, volunteered, didn't know what to do except I did. The job centre wanted to send me to places like Wetherspoons to work.
Oh dear.
Where else did I go for it? Oh, lots of casinos.
What's that expression about the fox in the hen coop? You don't want to be in Wetherspoons.
Really. Dracula and the Blood Bank, all those spring to mind. Just bad. So I didn't know what to do, but I didn't want to do that. So I met a lady called Ricky Josen who taught me all about social enterprises. She was working for Crisis, the charity, or doing sessions, and she ran a session on self-employment. And she said, all you need to do is buy your own domain name, get a WordPress blog, get blogging, and something will turn up. And get busy on social media.
We like her. We like the sound of her. I've heard Nicola give that advice to many people over the years.
She's amazing, and Ricky is your equivalent in Birmingham.
Oh, bless.
Lovely, lovely, lovely lady. So that got me thinking of social enterprises. And then I was listening to the food programme on Radio 4 one Sunday lunchtime, and I heard about a project down in Bristol, and I thought, God, that sounds amazing. Birmingham should have one of those. I know, I'll do it. He was working in addiction, and he set up a project for addicts in Bristol around gardening and fresh food and organic gardening. And I thought, I'll do the same, forgetting that I was a lot older than him, and that he eventually petered out because I'm too old for gardening and backbreaking work, and I've done too much damage to myself. But I loved the process of pitching for awards. I won a lottery award from Unlimited. I won a place on the School of Social Enterprise, and I met all these amazing people. And I thought, do you know what? I'd rather talk to you than break my back on a piece of land in this sort of weather, like you've just been talking about on your podcast this morning. So I thought, I'll do a podcast. And then I ummed and I ahed and procrastinated. Oh, they're only saying they'll come on my show because they know me and they feel a bit sorry for me, blah, blah, blah. Self-defeat, negative self-talk. And then I met my first interviewee, Corrie Fraser, and I pitched it to her. She didn't know me from Adam. I thought her story was amazing. I said, would you come on a podcast? And she said, yeah, go on then. So I did, and once I'd recorded it, well, then I had to do everyone else, didn't I, that I'd sort of tentatively approved. So before you knew it, I'd got 4 or 5 interviews lined up. I did the 4 or 5. I thought, I've got to get to 7, because the 7 is when people sort of give up, so I've got to do better than that. And it sort of built up a momentum of its own since then. So I tell everyone, in the way Ricky told me to do a blog, I tell, go and do a podcast. Why don't you do a podcast?
Yeah.
Because blogging did my head in. The little voice on my shoulder reminding me of school, saying, you never got more than 7 out of 10 ever at school for anything written.
That was quite good, though. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, but it was very rare that I got. It was usually 6.
Actually, that's one of the reasons why Nicola likes publishing books, because didn't you have to pay money to take your CSE or something, Nicola?
I did, yes. I was never more than 3 out of 10 at anything at school. So.
Oh.
It's highly motivating, Rhys. One of the great motivators of adult life is I'll show them.
Yeah. And you know, it was so interesting. You just said, oh, go on then. Now, that's a phrase that's got me into a lot of trouble.
Yes. Me too, actually. It's a great phrase when you hear it, when you say it. But also, you glossed over there a really strong skill. You were really good at pitching for awards.
Yeah.
And you met some amazing people. I mean, do you know how many people would love to be able to pitch for awards?
Or pay you to pitch for awards. I hate doing that sort of
stuff.
What
a brilliant thing.
Yes. Well, the thing, it just seems so simple, because I researched these awards because I had loads of time on my hands, and I went to I met an award manager and said, why do you turn people down? Because when I would go to networking and meetups and I go, I'm pitching for an award, for an Unlimited award, people would look at me and go, and they'd smile, one of those smiles that said, bless, fair play for trying. And I go, why is it so hard? Why is everybody writing me off? So I spoke to an award manager. He said, they can't summarize what they do quickly enough and don't communicate it well enough. They don't tell us how they're going to make money. All they want is a grant to get more grants. And thirdly, they overrun their 10 minutes.
So it's the same problem as Dragon's Den.
Yes.
Muppets.
Exactly. So it must be universal.
Yes, quite. And actually, they don't seem very hard, do they, those 3 things? If you've ever watched an episode of Dragon's Den, you can think, oh, I know how to do it next time. But people don't seem to learn like that.
No.
Anyway, Rhys, we're rambling. What we want to hear about is podcasting from scratch. I think that's what you're going to talk to us about, isn't it?
Yeah, so I got into podcasting because my my dad at the time was in his late 70s, now in his early 80s, was onto podcasting, and my 25-year-old son at the time was into listening to podcasts. I thought, but podcasts are just the BBC saying download the podcast, which is just an extended radio show. I thought, what's the point of that? So anyway, I Googled best podcasts to listen to, and I think the first one I listened to was Freakonomics because I'd read the book. And I thought, how you know, Stephen Dubner makes behavioral economics sound sexy.
Yes.
Wow. How cool is that?
Yes.
Podcasts can be used for anything. And then the more I've looked at it, of course, there are podcasts on everything. You know, from haikus to, I met a lady at the beginning of this year. She has learning difficulties, not very severe, just mild learning difficulty, does menial jobs to keep the wolf from the door. And she has a podcast. She and her mates do a podcast on some form of gaming. I don't know what the game is, but people must listen to it. And she has fun doing it. Yeah. Podcasts on everything. So I thought, it seems really simple. Obviously, as a typical man, I got into all the tech. Oh, what microphone shall I have? Yeah. Do I need a mixer? An XR and a Yeti and a Blue Yeti. And what's the difference between the two? And just the headset that I've got does the trick, or seems to. Yeah. The sound quality isn't the best in the world, but it's good enough. And it's my guests that make the show. I try not to talk because lots of podcasts I listened to, particularly in the early days, were just men talking, and that's okay. But it can be a bit, you know, it's men okay. Talking.
Funny.
Two men talking about something that they're passionate about, but I know, oh, please, it needs an editor. Cut this out. Yeah. But with podcasting, I've learned it doesn't matter. This morning, it was you two talking about the weather. I just did something else at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking out the window, and it's
we do bang on about the weather quite a lot, don't we?
Yeah, I know. So, why should you do a podcast? Well, you should do a podcast because, well, my experience has been it teaches you to pitch, and you're not asking for money. You're providing an asset. So I say to somebody, come and talk to me. You get an asset that you've spent half an hour of your time, 3/4 of an hour talking to me. It'll be there forever. Even if I take my website down, it's still on Libsyn and Apple and all the rest of it. Yeah. It'll be there forever for you. It's your chance for people to hear your voice, and it's not as scary as video. 2 or 3 years ago, I was video's the future of everything. You know, you've got to start a vlog, and I was reading about Amy Schumacher, as was going. You know, you got a vlog, you got a Casey Neistat, all these people. I'm going, I can't do that. I can't stand the thought of my own face and voice up there forever. No way, man. Whereas it's just me talking, and it's other people talking. And if you can't stand the sound of your own voice, then do what Engel Jones taught me,
he's marvellous.
He was brilliant. I was so flattered. I changed my LinkedIn profile and put on there that I was a podcaster, and he was on to me within a couple of days saying, do you want to be on my show? I'm going, who the hell are you? Oh, you've interviewed Johnny Louis Dumas. Oh, okay. I'm on the same series as Johnny Louis Dumas.
But what did he teach you? You said he taught you something. What did he teach you?
If you can't stand the sound of your own voice, play the replay at twice the speed.
Oh. There's nothing wrong with your voice, though, Rhys.
I can't. I know, but I don't have to listen to me. I just talk.
Yes.
And the irony is, people say I sound exactly like my father, and my eldest son sounds exactly like me, and they both sound lovely.
Yeah, so, well, isn't that nice? It's about self-love, isn't that? Then you can love your father and your son more easily than you can love yourself.
Indeed.
Yes. But anyway, you love podcasting. We love podcasting. You're preaching to the converted here. I love the idea that you're so good at pitching, and you see podcasting or inviting guests to be on your podcast as a pitch as well, a mini pitch. And you're offering it to them as a value, aren't you? You're saying, I can record you for posterity, in effect.
I'm recording you for posterity. People get to know the real you.
Yeah.
I don't just ask, what's coming up in the new year. I want to know. I'm genuinely interested in, I can feign interest in how you like your scones. Does the cream go on top of the jam or the other way around?
Yep.
Do you prefer tea or coffee? Have you ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk? They're the regular fun questions at the end. And I can now see myself going, well, come back to me in 2 years' time and we'll see how you've got along. And it didn't take long. The other thing, if you're umming and ahhing, this is just my experience, but I started this in my niche, my field, and within a couple of months, I got one of the leading or the chief executive officer of Unlimited, which gave me the grant to start my social enterprise back in the day.
Oh, marvelous.
And so you want to speak to influencers, you want to get in front of them, give them the value. Gary Vaynerchuk always talks about giving value. And I did just that, just not to Gary Vaynerchuk. I did it to Unlimited, and I'm doing it to other people, whether you've won awards or you've not won awards. Just don't come and pretend to me that you're a social enterprise just because you're printing T-shirts.
Yes, but you've also done what the blogging advice lady said, which is you've just started, haven't you?
Yeah.
Just started. Were you a radio fan before? Did you?
I've been a huge radio fan since I was growing up.
Yeah.
On my page about me, or the whatever I call it on the site. My mum used to do radio programs when I was really little, and I'd go along with her on a Saturday afternoon, and I would sit in the studio with her in Bangor in North Wales, and she would rattle off her bit. I think there were 2 rehearsals, and then I'd go into the tech room with the mixing desks and all those sorts of things. And I was about 5 or 6 years old, a 6-year-old boy in front of all these knobs and buttons.
Yeah, I'm getting goosebumps. It's sort of the romance of radio, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Please don't ever take my radio away from me. Ever. Luxury item on Desert Island Discs would be a radio.
Now, do you have a grand plan, or are you just going on from podcast to podcast?
I think I don't... Not as far as this podcast is concerned. There is possibly my day job. What pays the rent is I work in the treatment centre that got me better.
Yeah.
And I only work there part time, and I do other similar sessions for a different housing association around recovery from drug and alcohol addiction and using spirituality and I basically, you can use in addiction 12-step terms the big book, the Narcotics Anonymous equivalent, the Bible, or other spiritual reading, and I try and get them to think like that. So basically, get a mindfulness app, get as many spiritual apps until you find one that you're really happy with. Do some reading, and don't go chasing women, and don't go mad on Facebook and social media.
Yes,
because it'll do yourself.
Well, it's another form of addiction, isn't it? Potentially.
Exactly. They're all our behaviours are potentially addictive.
Yeah.
Well, potentially obsessive. I wouldn't class watching soaps as addictive, because there's no physical damage. You won't end up in prison for watching EastEnders 24/7.
No, but you do other damage to yourself, I think. But
anyway,
Rhys, you're a force for good, darling, aren't you? You're a force for good in the world.
Thank you very much.
You are. Nicola, what thoughts?
Well, I was just thinking that, people say that if you want to feel better, because having been through ups and downs myself over the last few years, I'm always on the search for what makes me feel happier, what makes me feel better. And they do say that helping other people is one of the foremost ways to human connection is what we crave more than anything, and going and helping people who are worse off than yourself makes you feel grateful and happy.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of Russell Brand because he's 15 years clean now.
Yeah.
And he is a very spiritual being, and I just find him very entertaining. And he talks about this spirituality a lot, and he also talks about how he's still a very selfish person, but the minute he starts to feel bad, he goes off and does something nice for someone else, and that makes him feel connected and happier.
Yeah, help somebody who's worse off than yourself.
Yes, exactly.
And in a treatment centre, that's what it was all about, because you're right, they're completely smashed. And then a few days later, somebody else comes in completely smashed, and you're that much able.
You're 3 days ahead.
Yeah, 3 or 4, whatever days ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there was a great quote from Jack, the Osborne son, when he was kicking drugs and drink, and he says, you've got to. The problem is when you get clean, you find you've got a God-shaped hole inside you.
Yeah. Another one I like. The good thing about recovery is you get your feelings back. The bad thing about recovery is you get your feelings back.
That's a brilliant one. Yes.
Yeah.
And my favourite one, having shared a house with a recovering heroin addict for the last year, was that relapse is part of recovery. So, when you fall off, get back on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, but for the grace of God, go all of us, Rhys. I discovered my carbohydrate addiction. My family are booze addicted. It killed my mother. I know addiction. It's a fascinating topic. But it's interesting how you, me, Nicola, we can all channel our propensity to addiction or our addiction back into something that not only makes ourselves better, but helps society and turns us back into a productive person with a sense of self.
Yeah.
Creativity is everything.
Yeah, and easy to fall off, fall off society's norms and how society normalises, certain addictions, but not others.
Ones where
booze particularly. Yeah.
So the back to I've let the conversation go. I wanted to see whether I like podcasting, and I've bought some domain names, and I'm thinking, right, well, I'm over 5 years sober now. Maybe there's a market there for a coaching program and I've bought something around how to survive, what to do after detox. So I was lucky enough, because I'd really lost everything, that I had to get to this treatment centre, and I got it for free. I didn't have to pay silly prices to get into the Priory, but then I didn't get Priory level support.
No.
You don't get your own room. The food is basic, and the mattresses aren't comfortable. But hey, if you want it badly enough, you stay, and that's all I did.
Yeah.
So, but I know that people there's a revolving door around addiction, and I'm thinking, is there a coaching program that can help people after leaving treatment? Because I did a whole 6 months and then another 6 months, and
I think that's what I discovered with this friend's son, is that after the detox program was great, but relatively speaking, he was on his own after that, and it was a bit soon, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It always is.
I mean, we're running out of time a little bit. I could talk forever about this, but are you thinking of starting a podcast where you interview people who found ways to fill that God-shaped hole?
Yes.
I think that might be better, to be honest, Rhys. Couldn't people subscribe to the podcast, and the podcast be about addiction and be the coaching program in effect?
Yeah. If anyone out there's listening who knows somebody who is a successful addict, for want of a better, who's doing well in recovery and wants to talk about it, get in touch and I'll interview you.
Well, there's you, and we need some more Rhyses, basically. That's what you're saying. Who's
that chap who was he was a member of one of the boy bands, and he's got a small holding down in Wales, which he bought and ran with his wife.
It's the cheese man, Alex.
No, there's another
yes.
There's another one too. The one that.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
You told us about him. He had a television program, didn't he?
He did, on the farm.
Yeah.
It was called.
Yes.
Abs from one of the boy bands.
Right. Okay.
Anyway,
there's plenty of them. There's plenty of us
of
about, Rhys. There's plenty of addicts about.
Yeah, exactly. And there are loads of American podcasts.
Yeah.
But I want a British one.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Now, we have to love you and leave you because you're the first of 4 this morning, but it took a direction I wasn't expecting, and if anything, slightly more interesting for that, Nicola, don't you think?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd love to hear more about your exploits. I think I'm up to 4 or 5 podcasts now. It's getting quite podcasty round here.
And Rhys, thanks for loyalty listening to ours, even when we bang on about the weather.
No. Well, the thing was, you asked for an Apple review, and I thought, I don't do Apple reviews, and I've been listening to this for on and off since when you started.
Yeah.
Because somebody recommended Nicola and Claire Jarrett, and then from there I got to the podcast. And I did a review, must have done one really early on, because when I went a few weeks ago to Apple, they said, not eligible, you've already done one.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Wasn't I good? Because I'm very bad at not reviewing other people's shows.
Do let us know when you decide on a domain name for your new recovering show.
It's getandstaysober.com. And my podcast will be A Day at a Time.
Yeah, nice. Lovely. I like that a lot. adayataTime.com. Good.
Yes. It's not A Day at a Time. That domain name has gone. It's A Day at a Time podcast.com, which will link into Get and Stay Sober when I think I've done the cloaking and the redirects and stuff properly. I just need to sit down, because I've had several false starts on the content to produce. First, it was going to be quite religious-y and Bible-based, and then I've sort of got
50% of the population.
But you can mix it up, can't you, Rhys?
Well, I'm thinking I'll mix it up, and I prefer the interviews. People don't want to hear my voice; they want to hear everyone's voices.
Yeah. You want to hear people's stories, because if we can hear that someone
it's all about the story.
Yeah, if we can hear that someone else like us has succeeded, then it's going to give you more hope, isn't it?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Well, you helped clarify me, and I'll be back.
Lovely to talk to you. Lovely to listen to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
That was fascinating, wasn't it?
Yes, I'm going to talk a bit more about him later on, actually.
Oh, good.
Do you have a word of the week, Nicola?
I do. It's cocooning. Because I've had my stove going this week. I've had my fluffy blanket out. I've been in the house listening to the rain thundering down on the roof, and I've just been cocooning. And the good news is it's only from November to February, so that's only 4 months, isn't it, of the year here? And you cocooning about August.
But you make this interesting point there, because you said it was the cocooning. Effectively, you said you've made a positive out of a neg. Effectively, earlier on, you said it was the need to cocoon that was making you restless.
Yeah.
So it's both sides of every coin, isn't it? You are right that one day this week, Monday, I had on my furry socks, my furry slippers, a vest, a scarf, a blankie, and a shawl, I think. And then yesterday it got much warmer. It's a little bit chillier today. There's some kind of mega storm going over the UK. You know how? Yes, exactly. Yes, something just blew across my garden in a bangy sort of a way just now. Much colder, but all hail the fluffy blanket. That's all I can say.
Yes, I've got to say I'm a late bloomer to a fluffy blanket. But
Well, one of the things I've noticed, apart from the ISP thing, in every house I go, they've all got the same blanket. They've got it in a different colour. Mine's grey, and there isn't one here. There's the first house I've been in, but all the other houses I've been in, there's been a mustard yellow one, there's been a turquoise one, there's been a purple one. They're like $19.99 on Amazon. They're huge and furry and lovely. And
I'm wondering if I'm sitting in a taupe one right now.
You might be. Yeah.
You bought it for my birthday. So
yeah, lovely. The ubiquitous blanket. So
I've got the front door open, but I'm sitting in a blanket.
Yeah, well, I quite like that, you see. When I used to live in London in my own home, I used to like to be toasty warm inside, but with fresh air coming in through the window. And I always remember about this time of year, probably a bit earlier, you couldn't do it anymore because your mouse hand just got too cold.
Yeah, well, I've got Angora gloves. Mittens for my mouse.
I do have my fingerless gloves upstairs. Today is not a fingerless glove day, but I have contemplated getting them out earlier in the week. I remember now.
I'm saving them for January.
So, my word of the week is hard, because November has felt almost impossible at times to me. I turned a corner on Monday this week, which was, I think, the 26th. And my astrologers told me it was all in the stars, so it wasn't just a big you having a downer on Judith Morgan, although it felt like that at times. And I've had a lot of little conflabs with other people on Facebook that I can see are struggling as well. No, my word is hard, because November 2018 has been hard. And you don't often hear me say that.
No, not out loud anyway.
Oh, well, I can turn a neg into pos like it's going out of style as well, but I couldn't for 3 weeks because we had the bug and the cold and the moving and the fall and the funerals, and it was hard. November was hard. No, let's make no bones about it.
Yeah.
Now, update us on your projects. I should preface this with I don't have anything to say in this category, so fill your boots, Nicola.
Okay, well, in addition to signing up for the Curtis Brown Creative Writing course, which starts in January, I have treated myself to a little Black Friday deal, which is Andre Chaperon, who lives in Gibraltar, interestingly enough. He's one of the quieter gurus, and I like his stuff enormously. His main product has been ARM, Autoresponder Madness, which taught me how to write in the soap opera style, where you line up 5 text documents across your screen and you write a story across all 5 of them, ending each one on a cliffhanger, and those become your follow-up emails. It's just a really engaging way of writing email documents, but he does a really lovely thing. If you go to autorespondermadness.com, let's have a look. Oh, it's called tinylittlebusinesses.com, right? So he does a really interesting thing. He has got completely plain pages, and he's just got all the places he's been featured in at the top of the screen as a authority builder, and he tells a story from page to page. But the thing I've always liked most about this is he's a really nice-looking guy anyway, and he's really personable when he speaks. But he has this lovely writing on his websites. So whenever he's trying to differentiate between what he writes and what someone else is saying, or what he's trying to really highlight, he uses this lovely, thin handwriting thing going on. And I love that. And also he has lots of nice drawings, so there's colour in it as well. And I can't really find an example, but anyway, if you go through, and what you're doing is you're reading the first page of a episode of a sales page, but he gets you moving from page to page depending on how interested you are in it. So presumably he's cooking each page, and he can tell how far you get in his process. But he's telling such great stories that you can't help but read on. If you're a reader, it's a wonderful way to market to readers. And his premise is that he only wants to work with people who can be bothered to read things. He's not interested in people who demand a video or who want things in short sound bites. He wants people who are intelligent enough to read. I think that's what he's saying.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
Well, exactly. I thought you'd like that. And so I loved his course. It was very reasonable. It was absolutely brilliant value. But he's just releasing a new one, and I can't even remember what it's called, to be honest. But
You bought it, haven't you? Yeah.
And I went to page 2 of his 5-page sales letter and thought, no, I'm having this.
What does it do, Nicola?
It helps you really identify who your core ideal client is, and then create a product just for them. So you're only attracting your ideal clients. And theoretically, I suppose I know all this, but I'm sure he's going to bring something really interesting and new to the table. But the bit I really wanted to tell you was that he's given us some homework to do, which is to listen to a Seth Godin podcast called Akimbo. And if you search for it, you'll find it. Just Google it. And then he said if you've got a bit of time, then you could read This Is Marketing, which is Seth Godin's new book. And funnily enough, the same week I saw Chris Barrow talking about the same book. He's a big fan of Seth Godin. He says he loved the book so much he's read it twice. And I actually think I'm reading through it now, and it's a groundbreaker. It's really talking about attraction marketing and how everything has completely changed. Nothing we don't know, Judith, because we've been doing attraction marketing for the last 20 years. But it's more intense, and it gives you a bit of a blueprint to follow, the book. And I'm interested to know what Andre is going to bring to it, because it's a brave man who's about to start a course, and he tells you to read a book by someone who everyone knows. So you've got to think he's going to be incorporating some of those principles into his course, but I feel completely trusting that it's going to be absolutely mind-blowingly good. So looking forward to that. I should get that at Christmas, which will give me something to do after Christmas.
So another coincidence, I had a business called greatlittle.businesses.com, which is pretty close to tinylittlebusinesses.com.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And I liked my little sort of play on words, great little,
Yeah. And he lives in Gibraltar with his wife, and they lead a very quiet life. And I know that people go out there specifically to see him because he's so well thought of. He speaks at only the good events, and he rarely comes out of Gibraltar.
What nationality is he with a name like Andre Chaperon? British?
No, I think
it's not a very British name, is it?
No, it isn't. But it, and everybody really likes his wife too. She's a nutritionist, and she works with people who, where people have the blood tests, and then she helps people analyse their blood tests and work out a nutritional plan. I know she helped James Franco change his eating quite a lot. So yeah, they're a well thought of couple, and I'm looking forward to working through the course. But in the meantime, I would like to recommend This Is Marketing by Seth Godin. If you're struggling to nail it and know who you're talking to and what they want, I think you do well by reading this book. Did that fill up enough time?
Yes, I think you did rather well there. Now, let's move on swiftly, and you can tell me who or what's inspired or impressed you.
Yes. Well, I watched your Kominsky Method, as you know.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed it. And my God, you do want to go straight on to the next one, don't you?
Yes, you do.
Watch completely. And I've been looking up, because the thing I really enjoyed about it most, and it did make me laugh out loud quite a lot, was there was no canned laughter. And I was thinking back to Grace and Frankie, which I sort of like and sort of don't. And I was thinking that must have had canned laughter. So I Googled it just a minute ago, and it turned out it didn't have canned laughter at all. So that was an interesting one, because I remember laughter in my head when I was watching it. So perhaps it was my own brain.
Must have been your own, yes.
So that's a bit worrying, isn't it? My brain's manufacturing manic laughter in the background of things.
And what's really interesting about that is when you put a comment tagging me on Facebook, because there's no canned laughter, I thought, I can't remember. Well, first of all, I didn't notice that. It wasn't a thing I noticed. And I can't remember when was the last time I watched anything that has canned laughter involved in it.
Oh, no, but it was a feature of the 70s.
I think, well, typically Netflix programs don't have canned laughter.
No, and that helps you enjoy the funny bits more, and it also helps you enjoy the poignant bits more. Because you haven't got any audience going, ooh,
I tell you what I like as well. Well, if funny enough, it's interesting that you talk about it, because I never think about it.
It annoys the hell out of me. I'm a very visual person, and I don't like repetitive noises. If there's any, the kids will tell you, if there's any repetitive noise going on, I'll go, what was that noise? Stop that noise immediately.
Yes, I'm very sensitive to noise, even not with the current computer, but even to the extent that sometimes when I've had a noisy computer and I turn it off, it's like, oh.
Yes.
But canned laughter, I don't think has been in my life for a very long time.
No.
And do you know why it is? I think it's because I'm a BBC snob. I won't watch anything on ITV, and I don't watch sitcoms. And these aren't really sitcoms in a way. They're good acting. I have a client who is a proper thesp, and she's also discovered the Kominsky Method. And she wrote to me on Facebook last night saying, "Oh, it's brilliant. I've loved it." I mean, there's a lot of talent on both sides of the screen in it, and we're used to on Netflix watching something that takes quite a long time, best part of an hour, but these don't, do they? They're best part of half an hour, and that makes a refreshing sort of change. I mean, if you're going to watch all 8 episodes, it's not going to take you very long.
No. I have watched all 8 episodes. Yeah. It was a brilliant character in it. I really enjoyed it, and it's very thought provoking on the topics of getting old.
I also think it's deliciously Jewish.
Oh yes, there is that to enjoy.
Yes,
very much so. Yeah.
That humour is very amusing.
Very dry. Yes. So lots of things have impressed me this week. What about you?
Well, Rhys, I had to listen to his interview again. We interviewed him before I left Kent, which was in March. So we did all those interviews in February or March, and I'd forgotten some of the later ones as each month has gone by. So I listened to him, and I found his interview to be really stirring. because he's known the lowest of the low and he's come back from there and he's focused on doing good work in the service of others, which is, I guess, what drew him in the first place to being a vicar. And as I said earlier, I thought his self-deprecating humour was both very British and very endearing. And I love that he wants to make his next podcasting projects about recovery with a British focus, because as he said, there are loads of American ones out there. I thought he was a top chap. I mean, I thought that in March, but, you know, now we're in nearly December, or it will be December by the time this goes out. And I've PM'd him this morning to say we were including him in today's recording and he'd go out a week tomorrow. And thanks for your patience, because some of those people have had to wait a very long time to be featured in, well, we do one about once a month, but Rhys is who's impressed me this week.
Yeah, very nice. I enjoy it too. Good, that's us done.
All right, see you next week.
See you next week.
Okay, bye.
How do they do it? Not a care and suffering. Wanna step into their world.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.